Hello, my friends. Let's keep learning how to express the conditional in English. Today, we will focus on the zero conditional. Sometimes I think of this conditional as the science conditional. We will learn more in a moment. But first, let's look at the verb tenses used in the zero conditional. For many people, this conditional is easier because both parts of our sentence are in the simple present, not the past, not the future, not the present conditional, but just the simple present. So, woo, we like this. Next, let's learn about the meaning of this conditional. If you want to use this conditional, it means that if one event happens, another event will also certainly happen as a result of the first event. Let's look at an example. If you add butter to a hot pan, it melts. So if I am cooking and the first event is that I add butter to the hot pan, this next event will almost certainly happen. The butter will melt in the pan. The pan is hot, the butter melts. One event happens, the other one happens as a result. So this means that we can use this in any time. Because something that happened in the present, like melting butter in the pan, was also true in the past. If you melted butter in a pan 100 years ago, it also would melt. The situations for this zero conditional are always true and possible. We are not talking about situations here, but we are only talking about real situations that could happen with this conditional. Let's also look at some tips for using this conditional. First, this conditional is most often used to discuss general truths about the world. These are mostly scientific facts. And this is because scientific facts, again, are always true and possible, and they occur in any time. So, like my example with the butter, this is a general truth. If we put butter in a hot pan, it will melt. This is what science tells us. So, this conditional is often used for general truths, but it's not used very often to describe situations caused by people because people are not often so predictable. If one event happens, 5 people will react in 5 different ways. So it's not typical to use the zero conditional for people situations, but we sometimes do use this with instructions. So if we are giving someone instructions or directions, then it is possible to use the zero conditional. We will look at some examples in a moment. But let's look first at the construction of this conditional. Like I told you, my cat, Olibol, is helping to explain the conditionals. So let's say that my cat falls in the water. In every time, in every situation, if cats fall into water, they get wet. There is not the possibility that the cat falls into the water and stays dry. Instead, we can use this conditional to express what will happen. If cats fall into water, they get wet. So you can think of this one also as the real conditional because this is true at all times and in all places. And again, my friends, the construction is the part of the sentence with if uses the simple present. And the result also is in the simple present. Let's look at a few more examples. Let's look at it in a question form. What happens when the snow melts? What happens when the snow melts? In Montana, when the snow melts, the rivers become very high. Or in Bozeman, what happens when the snow melts? When the snow melts, Bozeman becomes very dirty in the beginning because there is a lot of garbage and dirt in the snow. So, what happens when the snow melts would be an example of a question in the zero conditional. When you heat water, it boils. When you heat water, it boils. My friends, maybe you notice that with these two examples, I am using when. And it's okay in the zero conditional to use if or when, but when is very common because if shows us a little bit of doubt. But when means something absolutely is going to happen. So it's very common with this conditional to use when, but if is also okay. When you heat water, it boils. Again, this is a scientific fact. Let's look at using the zero conditional for directions. So I am a teacher, and so I want to know if something is confusing to you. So I can say, let me know if you need help. For me, if you need help, you should always ask me. You should never hesitate. So if you need help, the next action, the result, is for you to ask me, for you to let me know. So here is another example of the zero conditional. Let me know if you need help. And finally, maybe your partner is saying, oh, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. You can say, if you're so tired, go to bed. Again, here we are using the zero conditional to give instructions or directions to someone. So if the situation is that you are so tired, the only result is for you to go to bed. So if you're so tired, go to bed. Now, my friends, remember, practice, practice. So write 3 sentences using the zero conditional. And just remember, we use if or when plus the simple present, and then the resulting action is also in the simple present. So if the sun shines, the snow melts. My friends, remember, practice, practice, and never give up.